Welcome to Storytelling. This week's guest is a world-class thought leader helping high achievers unlock their greatest potential from the inside out. She works privately with founders, visionaries and leaders who are seeking a deeper sense of alignment, fulfilment, authenticity and inner peace as they create lives of genuine meaning and impact. Her work bridges emotional intelligence, energetic recalibration and neuroscience-backed transformation, guiding her clients to master the art of fulfilment from within. Through her signature process, the authentic self-mastery method, she helps individuals dissolve patterns of survival, return to inner clarity, and create lives led by truth rather than conditioning. In this episode, she shares what it truly means to live in alignment with who we are and how to create from a place of inner truth rather than external expectations. Please welcome Mimi Bland.
Hello, Mimi, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, it's lovely to be on the podcast today. Thank you so much for having me.
Mimi, what does healing mean to you?
Healing means really, well, if you think about it, that we are actually whole and complete already. So I don't like the word healing. I just like the word really recalibration. So it means about returning back to self, recalibrating yourself back to the truth of who you are. And that just means that any aspects of yourself that are not in alignment with the greater part of yourself, is just bringing yourself back to wholeness again.
Is there a time or a moment when you felt that you needed to recalibrate?
Yeah, I mean, so many times. I always think you learn the most through the painful aspects of life. We never learn when things are happy and joyful. We learn through the pain, but I think that's then gives us that bounce off, the ability to think, okay, I don't like this, what do I want? So it gets you to ask certain questions and helps you to sort of like look at life differently. But many times, especially in my younger days and growing up, I really wonder like why certain things were happening to me. I had no explanation of it then. And in those days, then I had a lot of healing to do because I felt completely void of everything within myself.
Was there a moment when you felt, okay, now I'm starting to heal, now this is making a difference?
Yeah, when we go through life experiences, you go through them and sometimes you don't understand why things are happening to you. You just think, what am I doing wrong? As you grow and you get older, you understand that life's actually happening for you and it's happening through you and not to you, and it changes the whole aspect of it. But my real big moment, the point of transformation in my life was when I really felt like I couldn't take any more pain and suffering. Like I couldn't take any more beatings. I used to be locked up in a cupboard. I used to have to sit facing the wall and have a boot thrown at my head for just looking or talking. And if I used to go out with someone, they would look at me and say, "You're so disgusting, like I'm taking you straight back in." So whatever I'd done, I used to think, well, what's wrong with me, And I think it got to a head where like I said, sometimes the pain becomes so much because you only know what you know. And at that particular time, I didn't have the knowledge and information to make any different choices in my life. And I decided to end my life, but that wasn't God's plan. And in that moment, I had a phone call, and that phone call really just something happened in that moment, and it just snapped me out of everything that was going on in my head. And I knew right there in that moment that I was here for a greater reason, even though I had a dream when I was 4 years old, and the dream told me that I was here for a very specific mission. In that moment, that's when my life really completely transformed and changed. And that's when I really went on the bigger journey of self-discovery and self-love. And that's when my life really did transform.
Your life transformed when you had that moment of wanting to take your life and then you didn't. Was that the key moment in terms of your journey towards healing, or was there someone that helped you along that way?
No, I think throughout of time, like if I can remember going back, even when I was like 4 years old, I always used to have the ability of seeing people whole and complete. even people that were abusing me or doing things that were unkind, I only saw them through love. And I always had that ability. But then as I started getting older, I started absorbing the hate, but I absorbed it back on myself. So instead of putting it outward, I brought it inward. And that's where the problems really started, really went wrong, really. But no, there were signs along my whole journey, you know, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, infinite intelligence. Every step of the way, I was always being guided. I was always being reminded. There was always signs everywhere. Sometimes we're not paying attention, so you're not seeing the signs that are there for you. But really, I think looking back now, there were opportunities, the doors were open, people would come. What people don't understand, when you've been conditioned mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and you've been what I'd call broken, as in not broken as in broken as a person, but broken, taken away from the truth. If people have planted seeds in your mind of who you are, and you've had that like completely dictated to you over and over and over again, repetition from a very young age, you're dirty, you're disgusting, you're never going to be nothing, look at you, disgusting, this is what a real woman looks like, constantly, every single day, you get to believe those words. So anything that anyone tells you externally, you think, well, what do you mean, what's wrong with me? Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you saying that stuff? Because you believe everything everyone's told you. That was a very difficult time to unravel that whole puzzle of what people had been spoken over me my whole life. Once I'd made that decision that I was here for a bigger reason, and I remembered and I awoken and I remembered the path of my mission of what I came here for. And I realized that the reason I came here was that I wanted to eliminate all pain and suffering. But how could I teach others to eliminate pain and suffering unless I'd been to the depths of hell myself? And I healed myself of every aspect. So I healed myself of 10 years being bulimic, where I was 5.5 stone. My organs were all shutting down. And I healed myself really within 36 hours once I understood how my body worked and, you know, recalibrated myself. I'm 62 in January. You know, I had a lifetime of mental, physical abuse. And I completely transformed that, thrown on the streets, you know, then. So everything that I like to teach people, I like to teach them from a place of, I've been there, I've done it. And I know when I speak, it's my truth. It's not through going to different seminars or learning certain things. Yeah, I was trained in NLP, emotional freedom technique, Reiki master, business coach, life coach. I've done all those things, hypnosis, but that's not what healed me. There was always a void. And that void was filled was when I went on the journey within.
So you mentioned earlier that there were signs all around at various different stages in your life. Can you give an example of maybe of what some of those signs were and how that was interpreted?
Yes. Say, for instance, as I started getting older and I was at a crossroads and I didn't know which path to take. And somebody had come to me and said, look, this is a great person. You need to work with this person. Or it was going to be an agent or someone like that. I would just sit and say to, I call it God. I mean, a lot of people have different definitions, infinite in spirit or whatever, you know, consciousness. I like the word God. So I'd sit and say to God, like, okay, give me a clear sign that this is the route I'm supposed to be taking with this person. And then I love nature. So I'd go and sit in nature, or I might find a park bench, or I'd sit on a bench somewhere. And then a lorry would come like 10 minutes later and just stop right in front of me, and it would have the man's name on the lorry. And I'm like, okay. So we're always there's always signs, but we're just not awakened to those signs. They're always guiding us and helping us.
What has surprised you the most about your own healing so far?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was the fact that I was never really broken. And everything that I was searching for externally, desperately, was never outside of me. It was already within me and it was never lacking. So I'd say, like the human conditioning, you know, we're conditioned to believe that we have to go externally for the answers and that we're broken and that the inner child needs to heal and all these aspects are external. And when I really realized that, hang on a minute, I'm desperately searching for someone to love me because I didn't love myself, but I'm already love, and I'm desperate for somebody to acknowledge me. I'm already acknowledged. So it was a real awakening that I didn't actually have to do anything. And the only thing I actually had to do was just to surrender and let go. And that was one of the hardest things I think that we find to do, because we're conditioned to do and be and have and strive. And if you're not striving, then you're a failure. And it's completely the opposite. And it's liberating. And it's so freeing when you realize you don't actually have to do anything. It's all your state of being. That's all it is. All it comes down to.
You talk about the human conditioning, and you mentioned that conditioning when you were growing up and how unpleasant that was. You're now a mother yourself.
Yeah.
How has that shaped the way that you have brought up your own children?
Yeah. So, like when I had my children, I only ever wanted to be a mother. That was my goal in life, was to be a mother. But I realized that I was inflicting some of my childhood onto my children, as in everything at home had to be perfect. From the moment we woke up as children, we were never allowed to go out and play. So we had to stay indoors, clean the house from morning to night. Everything had to be, the beds were military, 10 pence dropped on them, it was like military. And I remember my children growing up, especially not the youngest one as much, because I changed by the time I'd had him, but definitely the older one. It was very much like toys out, put them away. Everything had the carpet. I didn't like footprints on the carpet. Everything had to be immaculate. And then I realized that I was making his life a misery and I was making my life a misery. But that was the only control that I really had in my life at that time as well. So everything's about developing awareness. For me, my greatest role in life really is to be the best mum to my sons. My son is 43, my youngest one is 33, and I have 6 grandchildren. And now it's for me just to be unconditionally loved for all of them. I'm not here to tell them what to do. I'm here to be an example to them. I have 2 beautiful sons there. I'm so blessed, and the most unbelievable grandchildren. They're so loving. So I'm really blessed to God for that.
You work with others in terms of coaching them how to heal. How do you help others without carrying their pain as your own?
Because I always work on the premise that I remember I read many, many years ago that creation was complete. And then I get a lot of downloads. So if somebody comes to me and they're speaking to me and they say they've been, I don't know, they could be in a paedophile ring for the majority of their life since they were 3 years old, and some horrific things have happened to them. My job isn't to judge them. My job is to listen to them and hear the stories and hear the perceptions and the consciousness that's been created by this whole, their life experience. But my job really is just to hold them in love. Like, to understand that everything that's happened to them, it's just a story. It's formed part of their identity, but that's not the truth of who they are. Like Michelangelo, when he was creating David, he had the clay. His job was just to take away the clay. Nobody could see the masterpiece that was underneath, but it was always there. And like Jesus, he only saw the person whole and complete. And that's why he managed to heal so many people and why so many great healers in the world. It's about knowing people's truth. My job is to see them already whole and complete, hold that energy of pure love for them, and then they come into calibration with that energy. I've had people that have, like I said, they've been in therapy 10 years, they've tried to commit suicide 5, 6 times because some of the stories were horrific. And in one sitting, they have literally transformed their entire life, because we all know right from wrong. We have emotions, and our emotions guide us. Our emotions are what I call our emotional guidance system. And we're feeling beings. And when you feel the truth will resonate with your soul and it will bring you into alignment. When something doesn't feel good, you can feel it within your body. So that's how we really gauge everything. What feels good, move towards. What feels bad, that it's a lie, it's an idea, it's not the truth.
You mentioned earlier that your experience was more important than some of your qualifications. How has your experience contributed for your clients?
Yeah, I think what it does is that I think everything that I've been through, and everything that has like been my life experiences, it helps me to understand people on a different level. So I always go on a, like, we are spiritual beings having a human experience here, not human beings having a spiritual experience. The larger part of us is still spiritual. So for me, now that I've been through these experiences and I've healed myself and recalibrated back to my truth, because if you don't have the foundations of life, you're always running and building on quicksand. Everything is easy to dissolve. But if you have the correct foundations, everything you build on that is solid from going forward. So regardless if somebody's coming to me because they have financial problems or because relationship issues, or they're just really unhappy in their life, or, you know, it could be any situation. There is not one situation, weight, money, healing, anything is all the same. Really, the whole process of life is just you letting go. It's whatever you're holding on to, because your mind, like I said, is a garden. Whatever you believe, accept, and surrender to is going to become your outcome. It's not about positive thinking. It's about remembering who you are at the core of your being. And so I suppose that really helps me to relate to everyone, because I don't see John coming with this problem or Amy coming with this problem. I just see a spiritual being, whole and complete. And what is it that you need to let go of to recalibrate you back to your truth, back to your happiness? And that's what we're here for. We're here to live a joyful life experience.
What myths about healing do you wish people would let go of?
Gosh, there's so many. Like, I really wish people would just question things a little bit more. Everything in the world that you see and you perceive is not actually how it is. You know, if you think about it, there's always an elite person. Like, you know, the world is run by fear and manipulation and money. Really, everything that's put into the world today is to keep us separate, to keep us frightened, to keep us fighting with one another, where really we are all one. What you see in another is what you're seeing part of yourself, because people are only reflecting back to you aspects of yourself. So, you know, what I'd really like people to understand, that every single thing in life is a placebo. There is no magic pill. There is no chemotherapy. There is no tablets. There's no four-leaf clover, horseshoe, crystal. All of these are just a placebo, and everything is what you believe, is what power you put into. So if you think it's going to work for you, it will work for you. If you don't think it's going to work for you, it won't work for you. That's why some people can say affirmations, they have no effect because they're just words. But if you say words that you believe that resonate with you, they will have an effect on you. But if you keep saying, I'm rich, I'm happy, I'm loved, I'm whole and complete, but inside you feel broken and angry, it's never going to work. So, you know, all I'd say to people is just question everything and don't listen when people say, this is your destiny, this is your truth, this is never going to change. All they're saying is they can only take you to as far as their knowledge and information knows. They didn't make you. God created you. You're infinite, but you're limitless. And when you understand that, and when you've got the right knowledge and information, then you can start applying it to your life.
So with that in mind, what does a healed world look like to you?
I don't think we're meant to live in a healed world, if I'm really honest, because the world is perfect. If we lived in a world that was sunshine and roses every day, what would we get up to? There'd be nothing to strive to achieve. I really believe that each and every one of us is here to awaken to ourselves. So when we take responsibility and whatever's going externally, what's happening outside, you just recalibrate yourself. You just have to be a resemblance of that love. You can't want a peaceful world and then go and start shouting and causing anger with other people. You have to be that embodiment of love, be that embodiment of peace, be that embodiment of truth. So everything begins and ends with you. And then how other people, they then will come to you because they're like, well, how can you be so happy? Why is your life working out for you? Why aren't you getting angry? Why are you not responding to everything? So people will come to you because they'll want to know what you're doing that's different to everybody else. So really, we're here to save ourselves. not even to save ourselves, because we don't need saving, but to awaken to the truth of who we are. And if everybody wakes up one by one, then the world will start to change and transform. But, it's like Mother Teresa said that she would never join an anti-war rally. She would only join peace rally, because she knew that whatever you place your focus on is going to grow. So if you want to join a cancer movement, you're actually making that very thing that you don't want, you're making it grow. So it's about start a movement for love, start a movement for happiness, because your body will respond to that. Everything we've been taught, we need to really rethink. Look at the children. That's all I'd say to people. Look at the little children. They're a great example. Every day they wake up, they change characters. They find a box. 1 minute it's a fortress, next it's a castle, then it's a spaceship. So let's try not to be so stuck in our ways and in our patterns and our identity. Let's learn to put different hats on and have fun in life and go back to being childlike.
I think that's really good advice. Look at children, because they look at the world so innocently and they start every day afresh. What other advice would you give to someone listening, especially if they haven't got children around them? What advice would you give them to maybe start thinking about, how do I heal? How do I start the process?
I think really to start having awareness. I think awareness is the number one thing. Really become aware of yourself. Get a notebook and start writing things down. Why do I believe that? Why do I feel like that? So when somebody says something to me, why do I react in that way? What does it mean to me? So start really looking at your triggers, how you respond, who you are as a person, and really get clarity. People come to me and they say to me, oh, I just want to be happy. And I say, well, what does happiness look like to you? Oh, I don't know. Well, you do know, because everybody knows what they really want. Or I want out of this relationship. Okay, so what relationship do you want? I want to be loved. So what does love look like to you then? Well, I want someone who respects me. But do you respect yourself? No. Okay. So do you love yourself? No. So how can someone else love you if you don't love yourself? So first give yourself the thing. So all I'd say is write a list. If you could live your ideal life every day, what does that look like to you? If you could be, do, or have anything, what do you want in life? Get clarity, because the universe can't bring you what you don't even know that you want. But all I'd say is every single thing that everyone is searching for in life is not what they actually want. So people think, when I have the money, then I'll be happy. When I meet the dream man or woman, then I'll be happy. No, what you really want is happiness, because freedom you're born with, growth, we are here, we always expand and grow every day. And whatever you want, the car, the money, they're fleeting things. You meet that person, it's amazing for 2 minutes, and it's like, oh, look at their bad habits or whatever. They gave you a feeling, and it's the feeling that we're all searching for. So if the feeling is to be happy, then find things that make you feel good now, and then the other stuff will come to you, because you don't need it anymore.
Mimi, I just want to thank you so much for giving us such valuable insight, and thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly grateful too. So thank you so much.
If you would like further details about Mimi, then please follow the links in the show notes.